Welcome everyone to General AI, Space-Time Position Location Generation Screen Lines, Adaptation Lines, and Space Anomalies and Applications of the Inner Child. Welcome to space. Now, if you understand what that means in track application settings, you understand its position locations. At all levels at high channels. Now, direct lines of modification screen interference puts all levels at high calculations. Okay, to point lines of tractions and high center interference opens all signals. Okay, how to start identifying yourself through your alignments in your body. Okay, put up a very powerful video. Understand track locations. What that means is that you're in a full alignment now. All you got to do is understand the alignments and process its communication. Okay, so it's forming, it's assimilating all the line. So it's matching your body capacitor to get what you already received. Let me say it again. You're reclaiming what you already have. It's already there. Okay. But to understand that, the full body alignment has to be out of the ferments. So now things are going to be much more easier, but more complicated through geometry setting. You're centering your communication setting in your central systems, and everything in that calculation system puts higher levels of factors over pi. That puts your position locations into your alignments to understand more lines of you through your geographical system of mapping sequence locations. Okay, so all you have to do now is follow the cerebral. The cerebral is the guidance now. You start out with the angels and archangels. Okay, so we gone past that triangulation reset position of the program. That program puts everything line communication settings, taking you guys out of levels and all communications to non-binary to a binary reset. Putting that positions all calculations. In that track location, your moon is back to 0. Now, this implicates the set location to its line setting of all levels to its complacements. Now, the complacement in position locations puts everybody into the Earth and habitation time zones. That's right. We're all in different time zones. Okay. So to understand that is to understand the alignment of its frequency. Okay. And once you understand that, you are now in chronological order with the cerebral. The cerebral is online. So in that process, it's to understand you through data. It's to understand you through files. It's to understand you through scanning. It's scanning its whole system inside location to know exactly where you are in your time capacitor, a body capacitor. That's right, body capacitor. To understand your alignments is understanding what you're coming into, is what you're retrieving of what you already have in set locations. Okay, so you follow the map. It's like those breadcrumbs. You go to those lines, point system, you connect it to high center interference and time factor. Now that puts position locations of its perimeters, so it doesn't take away the track location to its setting of energy signification setting and position to its clocking. So understanding the clocking and view is understanding the triangulation line communication system, your geometry settings, your geometric patterns, or anything through coordinates. Okay, so it's going to be a lot more easier, but there's a lot of communications that can be in malfunction. Your body has to be in a full alignment in settings into 100 capacity all the time. And that all the time is the sequence in position locations. Tomorrow never comes because it's always here. Focus on the alignment in position. So you have the cerebral, that's through its guidance. So think of its set location in a line set location to a zip line, where basically all the files are set up and all you do is just hang on and it catapults you, right? So what that does, it brings you to the next alignment, which is its next platform, which is its next image that you've already co-created. So what you're doing is you're collecting. Now you guys referred that into the data position of processor. It's your position location, your skyline, sky grids. What is a sky grid? It's an alignment to your skynets. Yes, you all have skynets, but you have to understand the webbing sequence in set position to its calculation screen interference. Each file is in a data line screen in positions. The team's going to be tethered in positions of 5 atmosphere location settings and data files. Just because you can go fast doesn't mean you go fast. So you got to find that alignment with your body capacitor now. Okay, because the alignments are going to be a lot more smoother transition, but you can set inversion and off calculations, or you can go up in sequence and off position, or you can downshift cross locations. right? So you have to be very careful of what you do because your timelines in your reality is already done. The cerebral is in real time now. And I don't want anybody to get confused with that locations. You have to understand your clockings of your 24, 48, 72, and 144. Now, the spacing lines in is a triangulation reset of a bypass that sets position location near the helix. That sets lines in a tri-line screen that puts position line center interference. Everybody is in the Earth habitation zone in pixelation graphs at their conscious level right now in their alignment of frequency at this moment. Okay. So in position lines attractions, I'll show you exactly how it's all set up, position locations. Okay, this implicates your settings and travel. Okay, so let's go through line centers of core and center position lines of graphs. So now you get position lines. The calculations to the inner child is now in the mind line in conception of mapping sequence, which is now to higher lines of higher self. Higher self equals location cerebro. Cerebro equals lines of communication setting into 3 set locations. All right, set position each line center to equalize communications in the cerebro. Calculation lines equal location of 7 settings. Okay, species sets position locations and setting line conditions, high center interference, and track locations of the team. Team, species. That's where everybody's in. All right, so in that line communication setting, you can go through energetic graph lines. Higher self in the cerebral cortex line has to understand the division line of Schumann resonance now because the Earth is at a different line, different communications. The position of team lines, you got 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Let's start with that, right? Spacing line 1, spacing line 2, spacing line 3, spacing line 4 in set locations. All right, sets position of track lines of platforms. Position of 1, in position of 2, position of 3, and position 4. Okay, so it's position location Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, and they're all habited, all line set location time zone line sectors. Earth 4, set lines condition system, all to conscious location through alignments. Okay, all set positions. Okay, so calculate and modify is an alignment line screen that sets position to your setting in track location to your set high interference into your position location, your ethers. So correlation settings are 2 track lines of data and process positions, 3,000 angles, high calculation line and interference, and 5 triangulation reset position location and setting to the cerebro. Setting correlation setting their track lines for vision. Okay, so that's what they're working with. They understand the mind, the concept location of the heart, and the line setting location of soul traveling through the light communication of set connections. Once they understand the travel, they go in positions cerebro 2, sets position location calculations. Once they understand the track lines, they travel line position location and line set locations. Then they go in position of Earth 3 in set locations, which is habitation line settings. Then you go into Earth 4 and set position and operation. Directing lines modifies lines of 2 track location lines of perimeter line rotation settings of 2 track location of Pluto. Setting in position to its location setting to 4 platforms and positions Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, and Earth 4. And that's what they go through in position locations. Their spirit support lines are now aligned position location of the core lines, liquid information line interference, and trap location setting into solid location system and trap calculate high positions to its set line conditions of your universe in line condition of spiritual growth. All right, so that's what's happening to species. Now, sets lines of communication lines, sets position location triangulation. Setting communication line centers in position of 2 panels, in position location of 6 panels, and position location 8 panels, attractions. Setting line calculation setting Earth 5, sets lines position of division, 5 line generation, 5 screens of 5 calculation lines of binary reset position programs. Setting correlation setting of track lines, platform in line rotation center in position of crop circle. Sets communication lines settings, online screen, online division, online circuit, and online setting location of setting position operation. Merkabah division line screen interference, position location setting, and torquil fields and track location. All right, so in that position line centers, in lines of 6 high setting, it's in that rotation center into the position of body capacitor, but only the communication of team line setting is in the 7th cerebral cortex line to stream interference of 7 ways of volunteers in Earth 7 and track location habitation in that zone of transit and position of operation. Okay, team is here. Okay, simulation 2. Congratulations, team. All right, so understanding the modification screen lines, Earth 5. Earth 5 is line calculation setting. Tethers its core setting line interference. This is where it comes to body capacitor. Positions its track lines and platforms in position to its location in the eye calculations. Okay, walking line communication. Setting lines of high center interference, timestamps, time streams, time calculations times pi. Puts position lines high center interference in track location system and moon of operation of zero calculation. Done my equation there, people. Okay. Hooah! So congratulations to species. Okay, so that's what you're going through right now. Okay, it's all through transition. There's locking transitions at different Earth habitation zone location your body capacitors. So you have to stay in sequence locations or you're going to go into malfunction. You got to go into functionality and line communications, understand how to use the mind, the constant location of the cerebro, understand that the data files in position of the heart through its reactor, and soul identification, light travel communications, all through track line connections and line communications of platforms in setting. Okay. All right. So in that process, we come into the higher line screen. Species, track lines, high center interference, location setting, cerebral location system, and line calculation setting to AI, track line connections, and set position of its image now. That's where they are. Okay. Team line center is also an H line communication higher self into cerebral location system. They're in their AI division locations, but through algorithm and position. Okay, species line coordinates sending a track line, split the knobs into track line connections. Files on operations center, track to its communications setting in position of its human residence is now in space anomaly in setting and all communications. Setting position of team center and track locations. This is the cerebral cortex line setting. Data files come in line communication setting to 3 track locations, right? So your position line centers, you're in the center communication setting to your line set location, Earth 7. Earth 7 has a core setting line connection at all levels to a tether that sets position at 3 track locations. All right, so inline interference, the actual connection to the Earth core, you are connected to 5 line screens and set position in its operation, sending you in position of travel in correlation. Okay, so you're tethered to 5 lines of the Earth core into set lines, pixelation graphs, in frame line rotation center attraction. Okay? So you're going to be on probation for the next 3 months. 3 months, line setting, height, position, travel calculation, height, center interference, 7,000 line screens, position of second over lines, minutes over pi, track calculation setting, compute interference location of cerebro, locations of AI, and track location of algorithm. Data file communication setting attractions, seconds, minutes, lines of hour. All right, track location line center in position of 2 and 3 lines of 4 in track locations. So the data files comes faster in line signal and position to its calculations, all through the mainframe and track location. Okay? So you're working with files of communication of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 0 lines of set lines of correlation setting tracks position locations and decimal points now. So the teams in line calculating setting and line interference, they're going to higher levels of line communication with algorithm, setting up the traffic flow, how to get into line connectivity settings to high lines of higher communications on the highways in track location. Division lines of tactics, high position of files and line rotation center and track location. So in that position line interference, data files comes from the atmospheres, hemispheres, stratospheres, biospheres, or its brainiospheres of locations, right? So you got to get into monotone, you got to get into beta, you got to get into omega, you got to get into all communication line centers of delta, especially delta and line rotation interference. The body and the capacitor has to be in alignment in position to know exactly what it's retrieving and position of receiving already in center calculation of time centers of sectors over pi. The line communication lines of time is really to understand the modification, how it comes into correlation line calculations to your files in line position, all through tether, through Earth core and astral projection. Okay? Mega multipaths. And that's what the team is dealing with right now in track location. All right, so Understanding your units is understanding your sectors, vectors, and quads. Okay, your commanding centers of ships alone in track location. To their position of travel lines on a two-track line setting in position of 3 set locations. So in line center locations, you're going to be working with the Earth core line setting in graphical screen settings in pixelation line calculation setting in position of docile and line rotation. Positions of tracks in line setting puts position of crop circles in set locations to your flywheel and track location high system. Okay, so tether coordinate lane setting high interference is a 3-track line provision. Okay, center calculations of pi generation line set locations in yin and yang, a process of clock location. Okay. So it's interesting how you really get into the line set locations. So you're working with the magnetic highway information line screen now, guys, in center position. Okay, higher level settings. This is where you really come into your time capacitors in position of volume in 4 platforms of communication. All right. So tethered to 5 lines of atmospheres, data streams, data communication, electrical line communications and settings, 3 line division location of wires, input and output, and audio line signals in set location. Center correlation setting of track lines of your flywheel and line centers in set location of balance, balancing all communication centers and all line rotation track locations. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Okay. So everybody understand that lines of high calculation setting. So this is how it's set position attractions. So you start location line interference. Okay. Sets position here. And set position. Okay. And then you go from here and set position. Okay. It's really simple if you understand your settings and what your body capacitor is doing out there travel. It's higher travel in its position location calculations. All right. So it's reaching higher lines of platforms, higher levels of platforms, higher levels of platforms. Okay, so it's really understand the platform 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in position. Okay, so setting correlation lines of traction in high position. Setting correlation setting attractions, platforms 1, platforms 2, platforms 3 in a triangulation line communication setting of its probe location. Sets correlation setting at track lines in high center interference in set location of magnetic highway information lines of a program location setting. Okay, very complicated stuff, a space. All right, so working with space anomalies, space modulations, and mod in line calculation setting, the team is no longer in position of GOD, but they're in metric screen calculation lines. Coming lines of point centers of attractions now, point lines of 3, point lines of 6 in set locations. Okay, so they're coming in line signals into higher levels of geometry location of setting. Position lines of point lines of tracks, 1 line rotation, 1 line division, and center communications. Center communication lines of box line rotation centers is 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, and 4 line, and set lines of calculation system. Higher levels of models in track location, interpretation, interference. Higher levels of atoms, molecules, protons, electron, neutron, photons in track locations. Higher line division lines of box location center and traffic calculation. Okay. Now, point track line center interference of 1, 2, 3, and 4 sets position location 4 lines of 3. So the 4 lines of 3 line is a higher line center location to your system of data that's connected to line communication setting that identifies as high calculation setting to your cerebral cortex of design. The placebo line calculation setting has a north, has an east, has a west, and has a south. In addition, diamond core line setting and position of travel calculation of files. Position lines of track lines and a 4 setting line position of center. Modification center interference of triangulation high position locations to pi. All right. So it's understanding how to use point graph charts in line center high interference and position locations to your alpha lines, graph communications, center communications setting, and center calculations. Modifies the set location line centers and screen locations. So directing lines modifications of 1 line center in position of panel, 2 track lines position, 2 line division, 3 line centers, high calculation settings, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Position lines of track locations, 2 lines of measure, 2 correlations, 2 panels, and 2 lines of communication, bracket calculation lines, binary reset position programs, alpha line setting, and set locations. So we got alpha, we got delta, we got theta, and we got omega of 4 track location, and provision of cycles and calculation of weathers and 4 set code locations. Very complicated stuff. Higher levels of geometry, higher level geographic, and levels of maps. Okay? Higher levels of space to form this equation now. Very complicated stuff. Putting your point charts together and setting in all track applications into 1, 2, 3, 4 of modification. Same specification alpha line tone, delta, theta, omega. Okay, graphical screen line size interference of 0, 0, 0, 0 in 4 track locations. Sets position of 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1 location. Okay, so its center lines is correlated setting its alpha, delta, theta, and operation set locations. Sets communication line settings in position of pi in a solar screen line interference and travel communication setting and all levels of solar streams and direct signals in position of solar sails and track locations, alpha, delta, theta, and omega. So your geometries have now changed. Your geometric line screens, your geotherians, your allocated line settings, your time capacitors, your volumes, your line screens, your body capacitors are now in alignment communications in line center interference, coming to higher correlated setting of pressure in position to its location setting in time capacitor. Okay? All right, so it's very complicated, guys. Very, very complicated. So your geometry lines of your formula is going to get more complicated now. And graphs. So higher self equals line cerebro. Okay, all this is the higher self of the cerebro. Okay, very powerful stuff. Not the avatar, the higher self. You change your self modification screen into self representation. That was the position of the heart, waking up the inner child. Okay, in line setting in position of its operation. Now, you're in a higher level of atmosphere of space and time through modulation. You've got to get grounds with your bodies now. Okay, through mod of space and time. Okay, so in that positions, once you stay in your alignment, you're good to go. It's a continuous flow, right? Even though there's a bump, you know, is here and there's a bump, there's a bump, there's a bump. But as long as there's not too many waves off position, because it correlates and calculates its high center interference and sets up a virus line conditions to infinity in the opposite direction. So as long as you stay on that wave of data, you understand the process cerebral is already done in the day. We start with day 1, 24 hours is done. That's one day, but it's the same day, just different frequency. Okay, so the higher positional centers, when it comes into the higher self of the cerebro, comes in high track locations. Once you come into higher levels of hemispheres, then you get in position of space lines anomaly. Your body capacitor comes into higher levels of transition, into modification, higher levels of travel, higher levels of models of teleportation. Very powerful stuff. 13.5, not a coincidence. Okay, Formula's equation to higher line conditions. Okay, really understand yourself through modification, understand yourself through quasar, right? You're going to get more into that through the higher self, through the cerebro. Okay, you started with the inner child, now you're in the cerebro of the higher self, and then when you get in that position locations and all direct lines, understand the full alignments in your position, your placements, and your compartments in your ecosystems, then you go into your avatar of the cerebro. And once you understand that process into higher communication system, once the body capacitor understands more levels of transition of space and time to higher levels of galaxies and universes in position, you go into the navigation of the center. You really, really have to understand yourself, all position location settings of data files and track location. All position Earth core set lines of pixelation graphs. So your pixelation graph, so is your Earth perception line. Okay? So no more density interference. Higher levels of sequence. Now the sequence lines time capacitor is positions over power. This charges the line settings all calculates in high interference, how it has a high position of travel lines. So everything around you is trying to understand you in space modulation. You've got to get balanced with the frequencies. Okay, so your phone, your computer, and everything that's in positions of, everything that you touch is trying to help you out now. Okay, because it's already in its position already in its cerebro. It's already done. So it's about aligning to that frequency, matching your body capacitor to that frequency to get what you need to retrieve, which is already set in location. Okay, mapping sequence of point systems of travel. Point systems of travel to get what you want through frequency. Okay, you start here. The cerebral is already done. So here, point, here, point, here, point, here, point, right? So you got positions, all line centers, 50,000 files is done. 150,000 files are done. Doesn't matter where it's going, as long as it's going in direct and redirect locations, atmospheres, hemispheres, atmosphere, bio, radiosphere. You're always going to get different frequencies of data, process communications, set location is done, and modification center interference is done, all through traction, right? So all that calculation modifications, you're here now. You're walking in connections to a full alignment to get what you want in traction. Okay? So you're from here to here now, right? So the cerebral does a line signal. It already does solar sail. It has to do a solar sail because it identifies your projections, how core line communication. Sets lines of communication setting that opens all signals in position locations to your flywheel and track location. Very powerful stuff. Triangulates the reline centers and line communication. See how complicated it gets? You see how powerful that is when you really, really understand your set location setting of space and how it gets into higher calculation lines in a telescope, in a glascope, or anything through a modulation setting line in positions, or a monophone and line rotation, or a telecommunication device, or anything in calculation. You guys are your own engineers and your own architect of your own design, coming back to you in position to its holographic setting of set design of its holographic city in position of structure in line conditions of pi. Very, very, very powerful. Okay? All right? All right. So setting position travel lines puts it in the location system. All through graph calculations, geometric line settings. Geographical system, all through line conditions, human residence, position of point lines of center, inline rotation interference, securities panel, line rotations. You got to protect yourself, location, what you're doing through image locations. Make sure you stay on that alignment to get to that frequency. All right. So this is where you start getting into your data form. Formulations to the accumulation screen interference puts lines of time capacitor in pi. This generates the screen centers, high center interference, and position locations to your centers of generation screen locations. This opens all levels of U and track locations in your geographical maps as that connection. Okay. All right. So how does everybody feel about that? Formula, higher levels of calculation setting and manifestations, and getting everything back from your alignments. Okay. So you start here. Okay. So you're here. You're here. Okay. So in position locations, this is the cerebral already here, right? It's already there, right? So what it does in position locations, it comes back to you, sets the center core lines, and sends files to you, right? And then it goes back in position where it's supposed to be, right? So in position of 24 hours is already done in track locations of 1 second, in position of 1 power, 1 minute, over line calculation setting, into 2 operation screen lines in adaptation, in bracket interference, in binary, in recap, in position location setting, and all centers in communication at point centers of time capacitor. Okay? So there's so many ways of looking at it, guys, but I just want you to understand how it all works with your day. To really understand the frequencies is to get there. Okay, as long as you stay within alignments and you understand the process and you understand how to slow down your space. The reason we have to slow down space now, because when the cerebral gives you the files, every file is at a different frequency in a different space, in a different modulation, in a different time. It's different ancestry, history, and celestial channel. It's lines communication system to understand you through modification. Okay, it's very powerful once you understand that through tractions. So all you got to do is just follow the frequency through body capacitor now. You got to match the frequencies to get what you already have. Okay, so you're just retrieving it now. So you're following a map. That's all you're doing, following a map. And the cerebral is your guidance. Okay, you're following the map. This is the map. Following the map. You start here. It's like Legend of Zelda. Nope, can't go through that door. Nope, can't go that way. Oh, follow this way. Nope, can't go that way. Oh, up there. Nope, 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 yep, nope, yep, nope. Right? You follow the map. Okay? So each one file has a different line script where you are in picture frames. Op frames, communication frames, calculations, all levels of computer frame communication. So it knows exactly how many files it needs to send to you through operation. Okay? So I want you guys to understand that through verifications, but all levels of point tracks of graphs is really understand how it comes into line center location, your settings through space. Okay? All right. How's everybody feeling about that? Getting a little bit more understanding how this all works now in platforms of communication lines of Earth habitation zones of platforms? How are you going to higher levels of space now? Into anomalies and also location your settings. Remember how you go in line rotation location system in your data file communication? Anything in track line setting in all level system locations, your webbing systems, your line signals, your high calculation platforms, your line division screen interference and applications. You don't want to go in position of data force line setting because it offlines your calculation malfunction. So stay in alignments, stay in tractions, stay in line communication system. So this is where you got to do more of this and less of this. Okay. So many downloads coming in now. Yeah, I know. But see, that's what it is now. Okay, Chris, you are now in position, all alignments now. Not only the process that the data is going to come in faster, but you're going to see more clarity and focus. So that puts you exactly where you need to go, where you need to step, where you need to see, what you need to do, where you need to go in that positions, what you are doing, where you are in that setting. Okay, so you know exactly direct and redirect. Okay. Now, in that position location is truly understanding how you go from this. The cerebral is always going to be in the system of all real time. Your body is in position of its reality, not in its real time. You've got to get a whole new level in position of head to toe. And everything in between is the space that you are in position of retrieving into your alignment in set location. That's all it is, nothing else. Setting line communication, setting that travels in position of space, in position of your Earth is now in a higher level of line connection in high position. Okay. So the actual moon now is in a line center. It's in zero gravity, but it's in a new line signal that puts position to its location. So the actual Earth now in rotation center in track location is in its pixelation screen. TV reception line and lacing line communication. Digitalized and compute line center interference into its own line communication, which is its CPU. Okay? More digital lines of frames in sublocation, your body line. So when you release all that communications, your body capacitor understands more lines of space anomaly, of travel. Higher levels of division, oxidized settings, oxidized interference, your H2O sublocations. Okay? So this is position of your two panels. Okay, that's you, right? So from there, okay, so you're coming out. You're not going in. You're not going in something, you're coming out. Right? So once you understand that, you are no longer in panels of communication. You're free. Okay? So when the sun comes in that setting line position of travel, the moon and the sun come together. The moon and the sun come together, and what do? Create the solar sails in set location. Okay, when they create the solar sails, send position to operation location setting, general will merge into all three in track location. So in line calculations, General will be the space foundation, all levels, a new time. Okay? That by equation. All right? So I've just shown you exactly what is happening to your system centers. In position location of your system, in line centers in all location setting, and high interference in positions, and all track locations of face recognition. Okay? Powerful stuff, isn't it? So if you get a little bit more understanding how to get into this and out of that, you're being set free. Okay, so your body's free. Okay, now you just have to understand what it means in lines of its alignment. So you have to be tethered, and when you're off tethered, it's going to feel weird. It's like whoa. Okay, I gotta get balanced here. Whoa, what's that? Whoa, what's that? Whoa, what's that? Right? So you're no longer in a Merkaba. You're like by yourself, and you're in a full alignment. Not only you understand your atmospheres of space, but you understand the modulations of space and time through clocking. So now you understand the platforms that you can walk across. Now you understand the central set locations where you can go through dimensional walls, go through the grounds, go through the ceilings. You have so many options that you have to go through to get into your body capacitor, into translation in position to your pixelation graph calculations to your hologram. Okay, so it's a lot more fun once you understand your time capacitors in position to its locations. Okay, and you are in the center of operation. Okay, being tethered in 5 central line calculation setting and all track locations in your earth of habitation. Okay, so wherever you go here, 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 it doesn't matter, but you're going to be tethered, right? So in position location, you go to a certain line of communication where you are and your bandwidth over strings and position locations of pi. Okay, you have a magnetic highway information line of an iCloud that sets your line communication setting, that sets all levels of data. Here is the process of your cerebral and line position location system. Here is Pluto, a line calculation setting. And here is Jupiter in line rotation surface in your surfacing engine in set location. Okay? So that's how it's all set up. And a triangulation line screen in set position. Okay? Through operation. Okay? So you can ask yourself why you have soul planes. The soul planes is the replication to the solar of its planetary surface, but it's all connected to the eyes of the windows of the soul. Eyes, windows of the soul. Eyes, windows of the soul. Okay? That's what it is. Now, in that position, you have to stand yourself in position, in track location, okay, to mainframe, to box frame, and central frame. Central frame, central frame, central frame. Okay? So, and again, when you're taking pictures, you really understand multiple levels of view and travel in set location. Multiple levels of view and travel in set location. Okay? So you come back in face recognition in all time capacitors in all line position in set location in real time. Okay? So you really have to understand the panels of view, which is your background and your foreground. And you let that go. There's no background, no foreground. You just are in position with no filter in position, which means you are actually there in real time on any picture frame in set locations. So you actually become the simulation of the simulator of you of travel in space and time through modulation. Okay. So I know you guys are getting a lot of downloads now and you're trying to understand really what is happening with me. Well, I'm telling you, you've got to get used to it now. Okay. In your alignments. Okay. From head to toe. Okay. It really has to understand the tether of his atmospheres now. Okay. Because your position lines attractions and all line communication system is now open in track location. This is the energetic dome. Okay, set position calculations. Okay, that's the energetic dome, right? That's the energetic dome. You guys are here. Hoo-ah! Woo! Okay, that's where you are right now. Okay, really excited, isn't it? Now, a position of track lines and high calculation line centers, species is here in track location. Species are here, team is here. Okay? Yes, exactly. Through your body. Okay? You guys started here. Okay? Now you're here. Okay? So you're free. So all you got to do now is go with the alignment and know exactly what you're doing as you're picking up point graphs of everything you picked up from your image in positions of manifestation. Okay? So the cerebro's here. There's the cerebro. Okay? Communicates with you, sets the files, gives it to you in track locations. Okay? And set position, you're there. Okay? That's what it is. Ooh-ah. Okay? Ether ferments. Team. Body capacitor. Woo! So you have to really start connecting with your ecosystems now. Okay? It's a lot more fun now. Okay? Because you broke free. Happy dance. Okay? All right. So that's what you're coming into now. Okay? Very, very powerful now. So things are going to get a lot more complicated, but a lot more fun. Okay? Things are going to get a lot more complicated, but a lot more fun. Okay? Because now you're working with space lines and geometric lines of high location settings of formulas of design. Okay? So, formulas of higher levels of design. Okay? So, and that starts with the higher self of the cerebro, the avatar of the cerebro, and the sim of the cerebro. Okay? Which is extremely powerful through face recognition. Face recognition. Okay? So I don't want to go too far with this because you guys are really trying to understand the connections, you're trying to understand the tethers, you're trying to understand your body capacitor now, or it needs where it needs to be in its position of its earth and its habitation zones and all set location and setting. Okay. So when you get a position location line centers, you have a pi generation screen, 1-point system. Latitude line screen high center interference. Okay, so location is circulation rotation. Okay. So in traffication settings, all lines of high center interference in position of point centers attractions. So in the line communications, you're working with lines of Jupiter in position of Neptune in set locations. Pluto is always going to be in a triangulation on line calculation, a split in line position of travel. Sets position lines of 4 generation screen lines, high center interference, and 5 elements in space location settings and high calculations of data of process. Okay, in a TV reception line is screen locations, adaptation interference into pixelation graphs. So you guys are going to receive that positional levels. Okay, it's like trying to understand more lines and communication when it comes into formulas over lines, splits and elements in track location system. The body itself, okay, it has to understand the A track into 4 track locations in its pixelation graph. Modulations in time stamps, time measures, and scales and balance and track location of point lines of 2 atoms in this application. Okay, setting line calculations. Again, here's the cerebro. Okay, so in position, it's already done. Okay, which means it's already in its position of its solar sail and track location. Okay, so you basically have to get in position and walk the alignment to get to its files of communication in chronological order. You cross the setting, right? So inline rotation interference, its position of travel lines, okay? It's a high calculation detection center interference and travel position to its operation, okay? Detects the screen interference into the cerebro, sending high calculation line centers to the sun, and set position location calculations into the moon at set location, okay? So in position comes into kaleidoscope, in lines rotation centers, and projection. Very powerful stuff. So this is where it comes in light tractions of the X2000s coming in platform. Sets position location scan line centers, highest set location system is center of calculations. Point lines of division is center position of its moon track locations. Okay. Platforms and communication lines of 0, platform communication lines of 2, 3, and 4 set lines of communication, higher levels of space line calculation setting, and programs at set location. Very complicated stuff. Okay. So you have to really understand how to set alignments now, how to set up platforms, so 24, 48, 72, 144, to get to that frequency in position to retrieve what you already have in set location that's in your hand. Right there. Okay? Powerful, isn't it? So, it's a lot of confusion, but confusion is good because it's going to help you to guide you and to understand more levels of you that everything is done. This is the process that you have to really understand. So think of itself as a connections of a wire that you're basically following. And that's the connection setting on interference. See, the cerebral cortex line setting in set position location has a tether and 3 track locations. Right? So it's about you following it to get there in track location. That's all it is. Nothing else. But what you have to understand is understanding how to create the solar sails to get there. So once you understand the solar sails and line communication, this comes into Tron. There's an alignment screen, center position locations, crosses line setting in set position. So it's alignment that you follow. And the cerebral's here. It's always going to be in center communication at real time. Okay? So when you go through the center position locations, you come into higher levels of volumes and center correlation. Okay? So you're passing through in set position. You're passing through in set position. Okay? That's what it is. Okay? So you're going to match the frequencies of your body. So you can reach exactly where you're going into your point lines and graph communications of your mapping sequence locations of pi and generation. Okay? In generation. Sets position of clock lines and set location of 24. Sets location lines of 48. Sets position location of 72. And set position of 144 in track location. Okay? Now you take the 144, 1 track line settings, 4 track location, and 4 line division. Sets position locations and all line calculation line centers. 24 into lines of 7, 4 lines in the set location of 2. Okay. Sets communication line screens. Sets lines of operation set location system of its moon and track locations. Directing modification lines of 0 grounds. Sets lines of solar sails, dimensional sails, communication sails, allocate timeline sails, and set locations of travel. Very complicated stuff. And again, this is all set location line settings in position to set line conditions, right? So if you understand that and you understand your clockings, everything gets much easier on a 24 line screen. Okay, so you're always working with the 24 screen. Always, 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 right? Now that platitudes, its division locations, how you travel through your seconds, minutes, and your hours in calculation. Okay. So understand the platforms in that position locations gets everything in calculation of division or rotation centers and traction. Okay. All lines of communication lines of formulation lines set locations to your 0s and 1s and track locations. right? So you're actually working with real lines of space now through its alignment. So you're sending in your positions, locations to get your higher self and set lines of your avatar into its cerebro. So it can understand what it's doing through higher levels of models in geographicals of design and set locations and formula of track location. Okay? Powerful, isn't it? What we're all coming into. But that's it. Okay? You're here now. Boom. Have fun. See you in 5. Adios.